Welcome to Terror in Tandem, a podcast about finding entertainment in the macabre, hosted by the knowledgeable and lovable Laura and Richard Mathiasen. Each episode, we discuss the horror genre, from books to film to TV and beyond, sometimes even from the beyond. You can find us online at terrorintandem.com and on Instagram at terrorintandem.
Ooh, hello.
Hi.
We are in the throes
Valley of the Dolls.
Of winter.
Oh.
Yeah, that
Right.
too. I mean, the Russ Meyer movie? Or is that beyond the Valley of the Dolls?
Who knows?
Yeah. Probably somebody.
Somebody
I'm sure
else.
someone does know.
Yeah, we're in the throes of winter.
Yeah, it has been cold.
Yes,
My
we're
goodness.
recording from the Arctic Observatory in one of our New England properties.
It's a gligloo. It's like a glamorous igloo.
I
So
don't think that's
we're recording
glue.
from our gligloo.
I don't think people are going to pick up on that one.
No, it's like glamping.
No,
but with
I get
igloos.
it.
So it's a gligloo.
Is there another term that we
Listen,
can?
everybody calls it that. I can't believe.
What about a fig
haven't
glue?
heard that.
Fancy igloo.
Fig
That's
glue?
better. Glig glue is like a little too close to Grogu.
You don't even watch The Mandalorian.
Doesn't mean I'm not in the know.
That's true.
I try to be part of the conversation.
You're
you know,
incredibly
I
hip.
give me a water cooler, and I can chat up anyone.
Yeah, it's where all the
I'm gonna
hot
call
topics
it
are. Is it the water cooler?
a fan glue.
We all bring our jugs to the water cooler.
A fan glue.
I'm gonna call it Gligloo because
Okay.
that's what it is called.
Anyway, we are in our fan glue in New
Glue.
England.
Yeah,
Freezing.
freezing our fucking asses off.
Yeah.
It is like unbelievable. It's a little better today, but it has been. I know we're all getting a little sick of this phrase. Once in a generation cold snap. Which is like
Ew.
once in a generation.
Well, now you've made that part of our recording forever.
No, it just feels like that's an overused term. We should just start calling it once a week. The once a
Yeah.
week wildfires, the once a week cold snaps.
Well, it's interesting because this cold has taken us inside, and we've consumed some good content, I have to say.
Absolutely. Yum, 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 yum.
One specific shout out I would like to make, it's not really part of the pod.
No, we do other stuff.
Yeah, we do. But I really wanted to sort of give a shout to what we've been watching, which is not horror at all, is Poker Face.
Poker Face.
The TV show.
Ryan Johnson's new show starring Natasha Lyonne.
It's so great.
Oh, man.
It scratches every single itch that I have, because I'm totally into this type of, a little procedural, but a little, dark comedy.
It's amazing. It's like back in the day, I really hated TV because, when I was growing up, it was dumb and things didn't seem to have an impact from like episode to episode. And this is the same procedural like case of the week style, but really punched up, smart, quick, funny, and there is like an overarching story that like ties everything together.
Yeah, she's the thread, and I have to say that Natasha Lyonne is really great.
Yeah.
And Russian Doll was great, and she's been in things that have been awesome because of her, but
Like
this
American
is
Pie
really,
2?
This is really her.
Oh my God, she's incredible.
She's so charming in this as well.
She's like effortlessly cool.
Yeah. A mess.
Yeah.
Charming.
If honestly, I don't mean her performance is her own and it's wonderful, but she gives off hardcore Peter Falk vibes, like Columbo vibes.
What did I say that her character was? Like a cross between Stevie Nicks and...
Yeah, like if Stevie Nicks was Columbo solving crimes.
Yeah.
Because she does that same like everyone underestimates me thing.
Yeah.
You
but
know?
she like really is a mess.
It's amazing.
And it's really great.
Yeah.
And the writing is great, and
It's on
Ryan Johnson
Peacock.
can do no wrong.
Honestly, yeah, I agree. It's on Peacock. Everyone should be checking it out. It's just so much fun, and it's really, really funny too.
It is. And lots of guest stars pop up, and it's always a delight.
It's got a bit of a Coen Brothers vibe to it, and like the crimes are kind of whimsical.
Yeah, it's definitely has the 1980s TV, like text panel.
Honestly, especially in the pilot, which Rian Johnson directed. He's directed a few episodes, but in the pilot, I noticed it especially. He even his camera work kind of resembled like old school shows.
Yeah.
The way it moved, it just reminded
like Cagney
me.
and Lacey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of like a 70s show, but with modern production value. And I think a lot of that's purposeful. You know, you notice a lot of the characters wearing kind of 70s style clothing, like browns and
the initial
and
episode
beiges.
takes place in Reno, Nevada, which is lost in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
There is an element. I mean, you know, cell phones pop up and stuff, but there is an element of the show that it doesn't seem to be locked to a particular era necessarily. It's a ton of fun. Well, I think we've spent enough time on.
Yeah. So what are we talking about for this episode?
Oh, I'm so excited about this. It's one of the creepiest things in horror, and I think we can all agree it's dolls.
Dolls. Oh yes.
Oh, God,
yeah.
dolls. Dolls are so scary.
They are.
Dolls are scary.
Have you ever wondered why dolls are so scary?
I have.
Well, the fear
If only
of dolls.
there was someone I could ask.
It's me.
Oh,
The fear of dolls is called pedophobia.
that's
Very close.
oof.
Yeah. And it's related to the fear of puppets, which is called pupophobia. Pupophobia.
Are you fucking making this up?
Pupophobia.
Pupophobia?
Yeah, pupophobia.
Chrysalis
P-U-P-A
or
phobia.
pupa?
Um,
That's not just a fear of like caterpillars?
no.
Pupophobia?
So in 2004, a 4,000-year-old stone doll was found in the Mediterranean island of Pantelleria. And there are many ancient Egyptian rag dolls that have are made of papyrus stuffed linen.
Oh yeah, I mean
That's how old we're talking.
archaeologists
dolls.
find carved wooden figurines that intended for children from or carved stone figurines from the Stone Age, from the Neolithic era. Like there's always been this sort of human compunction to render animals or beings into like small sizes, and it's like a form of comfort, or maybe it's emulating your parents. Like a little kid sees their parents holding children and they want to do what their parents do, so they want to hold their own child, like a small version.
Well, in 2010, psychological science found that the creepiness of dolls relates to the way our brain detect and pay attention to faces.
Yeah.
And according to the research, humans' perception of life in a face is largely gleaned from the eyes.
Yes.
So recognizing life in a face equates to recognizing that there's a mind behind that face. So the more lifelike a doll's face is, specifically its eyes, the more likely we are to perceive that it's aware. And we know it's not alive, but that juxtaposition is what is the creep out factor.
Exactly. You have two choices when you're looking at a baby doll, and I mean like those dolls that are designed to look like newborns that you feed a bottle to.
Yeah, or poop it.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. Like that weird corporate like way of preparing,
commodity of dolls.
grooming girls to be breeding machines by giving them these toys as children. But like they just look like dead babies. They look like expired children because and the more they try to make the faces look like
the eyes
a real face,
never lie.
the eyes never lie.
The dead eyes.
And it always looks like you're staring at a dead baby, like Train Spotting style. And that's so terrifying. And then the flip side of it is sort of that uncanny valley of it's a simulacrum. You're looking at a facsimile of a person. It's not real, but it's meant to look that way. And I feel that like triggers some instinctual response in us of like imposter, danger, beware, something's faking.
Well, not always, but in like the early 18th and 19th century, dressing up dolls gave girls the opportunity to learn how to sew or knit or make clothes.
Yeah.
It also allowed them to have social interactions with their dolls, like the classic tea party, or like more complicated social rituals like a funeral.
And obviously, as times go by and aesthetic preferences change, that's why like older dolls look so scary to us, is because that's just not the style anymore. Back in the day, I think they weren't scary, but you see like a Victorian doll now and you're like, that is a nightmare machine.
Exactly. Well, in the 20th century, when women started to go into the workplace more, infant dolls became more popular. And that, what you mentioned before, it was really like the cult of maternal domesticity.
I know I sound like I'm wearing tinfoil, but that is very true.
But late in the 20th century, Barbie came on the scene, and her like wide-ranging career options provided girls with different types of aspirations. And then that physical body dysmorphia Barbie has as well.
Well, isn't there was a real person that got surgery to make their face and body like a Barbie doll?
Yeah, probably that real life Barbie person.
Yeah, it's a very
well, now
it's extreme.
There's like the boy crazy, bizarrely disproportionate dolls like Bratz and Monster High, where it's about how we're seen as girls and how girls see themselves.
And just as a quick aside there, boys absolutely play with dolls. They're marketed as action figures. Which is a fucking doll. That's exactly
it's a socially
what it is.
acceptable way of calling a doll a doll.
Man, when I was playing G.I. Joe in the backyard with my friend growing up, those were dolls.
Yeah.
We were making up scenarios with dolls.
So historically, dolls haven't really been threatening, but when they start to look too human, that's when they start to become creepy, and that psychology and fear-based of pedophobia comes into play.
Yes, there's that. It's like in advances in robotic technology, the more they try to make robots look like people, the more afraid of them I become.
Yeah.
When you build a robot that looks like a robot, that looks mechanical, it's much easier for you to psychologically separate yourself and accept that this is not a living, breathing thing. This is a machine.
Yeah. Well, there's a place in London called Pollock's Toy Museum.
Oh, neat.
And it contains all kinds of toys, but it contains an entire room of all kinds of dolls. There's 150-year-old Victorian dolls and rare dolls with wax faces.
Ooh.
And it's said that many visitors to this museum can't handle the doll room. And it's the doll room is the last room before you can exit the museum.
Well, much like coulrophobia that we discussed in our clown episode,
correct.
This is a shockingly universal and ubiquitous fear. I mean, a lot of people, if not afraid of dolls, I'd say more often than not, people are put off by them.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you go somewhere and someone's got like a bunch of them. Like a pile.
Have you ever seen like a real human person with dead eyes or expressionless eyes?
I mean, I've seen a dead body.
No, I mean, like, have you ever encountered a breathing human
with dead eyes?
Yeah,
like a psycho. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See?
I believe I've had some experiences with. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is a human represented as less lifelike, which is a weird
and it's like
correlation between a doll that is more lifelike.
That's like the famous line Robert Shaw gives in Jaws when he's describing Jaws.
Are we the fish or the fish?
No, he says his eye dead eyes like a doll's eyes.
Oh, I thought you meant are we the fish or is the fish us?
That's not a line from Jaws.
It was cut from the original.
Oh, it's director's cut? Yeah. That's on the cutting room floor.
It's on the commentary.
Yeah.
So do you want to get into like the filmatic history of dolls?
I mean, I've got a couple of examples of dolls. I know that
Well, let me start because I'm going to go way back.
Oh.
So in 1929, the musical drama called The Great Gabbo, although it's not considered horror, showed its audience a spooky ventriloquist dummy named Otto. The owner of Otto,
Fans
Gabbo,
of The Simpsons, by the way, will definitely remember the episode that spoofed this.
Yeah.
Gabbo, Gabbo, Gabbo!
Yeah, the owner of Otto, Gabbo, who was driven insane by his abilities and talent, uses Otto to express his truest feelings for his girlfriend. And later, the film shows how Gabbo is less significant in the world and that even the love of his life prefers the company of Otto.
Oh, God.
Much of the early scary dolls in film and TV were primarily ventriloquist dummies.
Well, the ventriloquist dummy adds an element that I find fascinating because it's inextricably linked to a person, literally.
Yes.
It cannot move, it cannot speak or operate. And when it starts to operate on its own, but it's still attached to the person, then it creates like that very blurry line of how much is that doll alive and controlling the person? Is the person crazy and they think the doll is alive? Or
am I supposed to believe the doll is alive?
Are they
am I
using the doll?
supposed to watch the doll and not the performer?
And also,
do you know what I mean?
When you, movies like Magic, where Anthony Hopkins he's like kind of a loser.
So young.
Yeah, it's really wild to watch him as such a young actor, but he's kind of like a failed loser in that movie, and you feel some sympathy for him. That when I can't remember the name of the puppet, but when the ventriloquist starts to really assert itself, it's almost like he's a bit of a victim himself.
In 1945, a British anthology horror called The Dead of Night.
Oh yeah, Dead of Night
came out.
Yeah,
and it's a super rare horror film because during this time, horror films were actually banned from production because of World War II in Britain. So this final story of this anthology, called The Ventriloquist Dummy, we find Hugo, the dummy of a ventriloquist Maxwell Frere. He's not happy with their act, and so Hugo decides he needs a better puppeteer. And he approaches a rival ventriloquist. And Maxwell doesn't realize this at first, that Hugo's alive, and then he ends up being killed by him. And the story basically shows the evil dummy. So this is really like the emergence of that evil ventriloquist dummy.
Do you think this is the movie that Chucky watches?
Maybe.
Like he's like, oh yeah, the OG.
The dummy is abusive, and he's murderous, and he is very creepy. You should look up Hugo the dummy.
I definitely will.
He looks like he's carved from wood, and it's very, very scary.
That's awesome.
But back to Magic, you were talking about what his name was. What the dummy's name was.
Yeah, what was it?
In Magic.
I can't remember.
Corky.
Oh, right. Yep. Okay.
Who I also believe was made of wood.
Yeah.
Corky. Some other ventriloquist-focused films. Devil's Doll from 1964.
I don't know that one.
Asylum, 1972.
Mm-hmm.
Magic, as you mentioned, 1978. And then the Saw franchise with Billy the Puppet.
Yeah. James Wan directed the first one, which didn't really have the puppet. No, it did. Jigsaw. Yeah.
Billy the Puppet.
Oh, the puppet's name is Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the killer is Jigsaw.
Yes.
Yeah. The first movie's really good, man.
Yeah,
I love the first movie.
Yeah.
The rest of them, not
that
for
Donnie
me.
Wahlberg?
That was no. The first
Luke
movie.
Danes
The first movie was
from Gilmore Girls.
Nope, and Nope. The first movie.
Carrie Elways.
Carrie Elways, Lee Whannell, and Danny Glover were in it.
Okay, I knew I'd get there eventually.
Donnie Wahlberg and the guy from Gilmore Girls showed up in the later sequels.
The possession of children's toys, meaning especially dolls, really first appeared on film in the 1963 episode of The Twilight Zone, The Living Doll.
Yes. Oh, I was hoping you were going to mention that.
Well, crazily, the mom in the episode,
Mm-hmm.
her name is Annabelle.
Annabelle. I know. How wild is that,
It's
right?
so wild. I'm
I know.
sure that was purposeful.
Maybe. I don't know.
And she gives her daughter Chrissy this wind-up doll named Talkie Tina, like a play on the Chatty Cathy
Yeah,
doll.
exactly. Yeah.
And her new stepfather hates Christy.
By the way,
yes,
played by Telly Savalas.
Oh, wow.
Who is
I wouldn't want Telly Savalas not to like me.
Listen, Telly Savalas, I love this episode. This is one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes. I saw it as a kid. It scared the crap out of me. Telly Savalas is not fully bald in this. He's still got like a little kind of hair around the sides. And he plays this just abusive, toxic, fucking asshole of a stepfather.
So
he's so mean. He's so like that toxic male, like, you know, just demeaning to women, demeaning to his stepdaughter, really just a mean bastard. And man, Telly Savalas just nails it.
Well, when you pull Talkie Tina's string or squeezer, I forget. Was it pull string or
I think
squeeze?
it's pull the string, yeah.
My name is Talkie Tina and I love you.
Yep.
But after all of Telly Savalas' abuse is given to Christy and he's treating her really poorly, the doll absorbs that energy and ends up saying things like, I don't like you.
My name is Talkie Tina,
and
I don't think I like you very much.
And he wind. It's a wind.
It's a wind up, yeah. And then it cycles through, and then it eventually starts to say things like, "My name is Talkie Tina, and I'm going to kill you."
Right.
But it doesn't say that shit when anyone else is around.
Nope, just when he's alone with it. And
Yep.
he ends up throwing it away. And then he finds the doll back in bed with Christy. He also tries to like weigh it down to drown it in a burlap sack.
Yeah.
And Annabelle threatens to leave. And he's like, fine, I won't get rid of the doll. And he hears something in the night and he trips over Talkie Tina on the stairs and dies. And when Annabelle finds him with Tina next to him, she winds her up and she says, my name is Talkie Tina and you better be nice to me.
Classic Twilight Zone ending. He also tries to burn her.
Yeah.
And she keeps blowing the match out.
Yes.
I remember. I'll never forget that. But there's another element to this is I mentioned his toxic masculinity before. It's briefly mentioned in the episode that he is impotent. So
wow. Oh, he's not impotent. He's
sterile. He can't have children.
Yes.
So
correct.
He's always got that chip on his shoulder that's not his real daughter and he can't have children of his own. And he's, that simmering rage just beneath his suburban surface. Telly Savalas really plays that well.
No lollipop for this one.
Oh, it's a great episode. Man.
But the possessed dolls trope started to really take off in the 80s. So we had ventriloquist dummies being the early part of, the 1940s to
and that tracks
80s.
Because, early movies are coming off of the stage from vaudeville, and there was a lot of puppetry and ventriloquist acts back in the day.
And so now we start to see these possessed dolls in the 1987 film Dolls and later in the 1988 Child's Play with Chucky.
Is that the name of the movie? Child's Play with Chucky.
With Chucky. Come play.
Well, what do you think? Do you want to take a quick break?
Let's take a break and then we'll get into some of these possessed dolls that we want to talk about.
Sounds good.
Are you over the 50 Shades of Dull? Looking for a way to spice up more than just your sex life? Introducing H.H. Holmes Home Dungeon Design, where we take the kink out of the clink. With H.H. Holmes' discreet and silent design team, we transform your once tantalizing sex dungeon into a terrifying, dungeon. If you've already satisfied your craving for masochism, why not redesign your space for maximum sadism? We will reimagine your space to allow for all of your darkest plans to come to life. Don't have a sex room to convert? Don't worry, we love a blank slate. With our 3D specs, we can show you all the horrors, nightmares, and tortures you can create with just a few modifications to your space. Need drainage? We have the latest drainage grading and high flow power technology used by the military to clean their most stubborn messes. So make that call from the last payphone in your town and engage with one of our talented dungeon designers today. This is a fake ad for a fake product on a horror-themed podcast. We do not endorse nor condone kidnapping, torture, or murder, no matter how bougie your kill room is.
And we're back. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Well, why don't you start? Because I think you're going to talk about Chucky, aren't you?
I mean, look, it's an episode about dolls.
Should really talk about Chucky.
Gotta talk about Chucky.
We need to talk about Chucky.
We do. It's time.
Do you know that was the original title of that movie?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
But then they thought that,
they were going to call We Need to Talk About Kevin's
shoot
Play.
Up a school.
No. So, anyway, Child's Play is brought to us by the great Don Mancini.
Oh.
Now, the first installment was...
From Pink Panther fame?
That's Henry Mancini.
Were they related?
I don't know. It's a great question.
Wait.
So,
do, gonna look it up, do, gonna look it up, do, gonna find out live on the TV show.
So, the original Child's Play came out in 1988. It was directed by Tom Holland, not Spider-Man. We're talking the director of Fright Night. Now, Brad Dourif plays Charles Lee Ray, a serial killer who, in the opening of the movie, is on the run from the cops. Well, early in the movie, he learns how to do this voodoo ritual of spirit transfer. Then he gets chased by the cops. He's mortally wounded in a toy store, and he transfers himself into a good guy doll. Now, I'll get to that in a second. So, the good guy doll is this like 2 foot tall, doll, red hair. Everybody knows what Chucky looks like. So anyway, it's now possessed by Charles Lee Ray, gets adopted by a family.
It's like the My Buddy doll.
It's exactly like the My Buddy doll. So he becomes best friends with his new kid, Andy. And Chucky's plan is to transfer his spirit into any other body, and he ends up trying to do it to Andy. So Chris Sarandon's in it. It's really very good. Brad Dourif does the voice of Chucky in all of the movies and in the TV show that's out. And it's iconic. I mean, Brad Dourif as Chucky, it's one of the most iconic voice roles. Everybody right now is hearing that voice, So there are 7 Child's Play movies.
Just for those of you who might not know who Brad Dourif is right off, from your,
Okay, shame on you, for one.
Yeah, but, maybe you want to mention a couple of notable films.
Yeah, he was the doctor in Deadwood.
Yep. That was probably the most contemporary. He's in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
It was in The Exorcist 3.
Yep. Yeah.
No,
I know.
Actually a good movie, and he's really good in it. He's got this crazy monologue in that movie that lasts 3 minutes. It's awesome.
But definitely the doctor from Deadwood is probably the one. He was also in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he was Grima Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. Brad Dourif is the GOAT, man. He's been around forever. He's the best. And also his daughter, Fiona Dourif, is an actor herself, and she is the protagonist of Child's Play 6 and 7.
Oh.
Yeah, so it starts off with a trilogy of films centered around Andy. Follows Andy up until the third movie takes place. He's in military school because nobody believes him that there's a killer doll that's been killing everyone around him and terrorizing him for the last couple of movies.
And that's what you did with Troubled Kids in the 90s.
You send them to military school. So the thing about Child's Play is there are 7 main movies, and they're all good. The reason it kept reinventing itself. So it had the Andy trilogy, but then in the 4th movie, they hand the reins to Ronnie Yu, a Hong Kong director who did Bride with White Hair, which is awesome, by the way, to do Bride of Chucky. Brings in Jennifer Tilly as Tiffany.
Who's perfect.
Instantly becomes as iconic as Chucky. In the 5th movie, they bring in Billy Boyd as Glenn/Glenda, which is an excellent Ed Wood reference. And also, I'm just going to throw it out there, the first trans puppet murderer doll in a movie. Voiced by, but also Lord of the Rings, Billy Boyd. So, yeah, it's got 2 seasons of a TV show, also done by Don Mancini. I haven't seen the TV show. It's the only thing I haven't seen. I heard it's great. 3rd season's coming. It was remade by Lars Klevberg, and it was an unfortunate remake. Don Mancini had nothing to do with it. Great cast, but it was basically Terminator, the plot of Terminator 3 with Chucky. It just didn't work. It lost like all the magic of the original. Now, the thing about Chucky is, if I can tell a little personal story.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's very much almost exactly like a very popular doll from the 80s called a My Buddy doll. It looks exactly the same. I don't know. Those of you of a certain age are probably humming the tune along in your head right now. My buddy, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
wherever he goes, wherever I go,
yeah.
he goes.
My buddy and me like to climb up a tree. So anyway, yeah, I had a My Buddy doll, right? So one day, it's like 1980.
Which he really needed as well, but you got a My Buddy doll instead.
I needed a well, so just to go and ponder and think my deep thoughts. And whisper my wishes. So I had a My Buddy doll. It's like 1985. I am very little. No, not. It's like 1987 or 88.
Not so little. Sorry.
Still pretty little. So I remember I came downstairs, to
show off your mustache.
After I went to bed, and I walked into the living room, and there was a trailer for Child's Play, and I saw Chucky, who I thought was my buddy doll, my buddy doll, doing terrible, terrible things to people and saying awful things. And my parents saw me watching it, and they were like, "Oh no!" And they rushed me out of the room and took me upstairs. And I spent the rest of the night staring at the My Buddy doll, and the My Buddy doll was staring at me from the foot of the bed. And my dad came in the next morning to wake me up, and I was still awake. And he looked at me, and he looked at the doll, and I'll never forget this. Like, this comprehension came over his face, and he's like, "Oh shit!" So I never saw the My Buddy doll after that. He got rid of it more successfully than poor Eric from the Twilight Zone. But yeah, so listen, Child's Play.
No, it was exactly the same. Your dad told me that he wrapped it in a burlap sack and weighed it down with sandbags.
Oh no!
And threw it in Oyster Bay.
Is that how he really died? Wow.
Chucky, the doll.
Okay, so
oh, dark.
No, the thing about Child's Play is it's amazing, and everyone should watch it. I get if you can't get over the whole doll thing, if that's just not something you find intimidating, but I tell you, it works. Brad Dourif's performance is fantastic. Chucky is a mean fucking bastard. He's a trash-talking, cursing, foul-mouthed, violent murderer. It's a blast. And the fact that it's remained so consistent for so many years over so many installments, Child's Play. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about Annabelle.
Ooh.
So
obviously
Annabelle,
the mom from the 1963 episode.
I know, which is crazy.
Which we all knew.
So Annabelle, a lot of people think it's scariest because it's allegedly based on a true story. So paranormal investigators, these are real people, Ed and Lorraine Warren, claim that the Annabelle that we know is actually like a Raggedy Ann doll that was being used by a demon to possess a human soul.
Yeah.
And so they have the doll, the Raggedy Ann like possessed doll version permanently locked away in the Warrens Occult Museum in Connecticut. It's
behind glass, and you're not allowed to touch it, and it is said to be the most malevolent thing in their curio collection. This is, of course, fans of The Conjuring will know Ed and Lorraine Warren as Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga.
Yes. So the Annabelle series is 3 films within the larger Conjuring universe.
The Conjureverse.
And the first episode, the first film is just called Annabelle. And it's starring, again, crazy, right? Annabelle Wallace.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I didn't
very
even know there were
strange.
that many Annabelles out there. Is
I
it
know.
like that common of a name? It seems like a Disney name.
Wait, what is that from Arrested Develop?
Oh, Annabelle? Because she's the belle of the
Annabelle.
ball. I call her Annabelle because she's shaped like a bell.
The belle of the ball. So in the first film, Annabelle, a doctor and his pregnant wife add a rare vintage doll to their collection in their soon-to-be born daughter's nursery. The film takes place in 1967, and I'm mentioning this because it sort of is significant. So during the night, they hear a disturbance in their neighbors Pete and Sharon Higgins' home, and the couple are then attacked by the same criminals, members of a cult practicing devil worship, we later discover, and the estranged daughter of Pete and Sharon Higgins, Annabelle. Annabelle slits her own throat while holding this vintage doll. And we see like the blood drip into and become absorbed by the doll, which we can assume is where the doll gets its evil spirit that wants a soul.
Yeah.
And after the baby's born and the couple moves, the doll begins to take measures to get the baby's soul.
You know, and after this happened, we should mention that Mattel had to take out all of the blood drinking functionality in their line of dolls.
They did.
This
is a vintage doll.
It's a real mess. It's a PR nightmare.
The couple confide in a priest who's unable to rid the doll of evil. He was actually intending to bring it to the Warrens, but he wasn't able to even get that far.
Yeah, the real-life Ed and Lorraine Warren were the only lay people ever to be sanctioned by the Catholic Church as official exorcists.
So they can't get rid of the doll.
That's true, by the way.
Yeah,
that's
I know,
real.
I know. They can't get rid of the doll. And then they have a new neighbor who's played by Alfre Woodard, and she essentially sacrifices herself to give the soul for the babies.
Just as an aside, you know she's like in her 60s?
Yeah, she's awesome.
God. I'm going to look like a pile of trash by the time I'm 50. And Alfre Woodard's out there like, what? I look like I'm 30.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I know.
God.
This doll, this vintage doll, after, all is said and done in the film, is later, at the end of the film, is later found and purchased by a mother for her own daughter about 6 months later. So that's how the film ends.
Yeah, yeah.
And so in the next film, Annabelle Creation, it comes out in 2017, came out in 2017. It begins with the physical creation of the doll by a doll maker for his daughter named Bee.
It's a prequel.
This is a prequel to the first film, and it takes place in 1943 initially. Their daughter dies tragically, and then the couple takes in 6 homeless orphans from a recently closed orphanage about 15 years after Bee's death. One of the orphans, Janice, who's disabled by polio, keeps being called into Bee's room, even though it's been told it's off limits. She then becomes possessed by the same evil that is within that doll, within the Annabelle doll. And after Janice basically leaves after trying to kill everyone, we find her relocated to another orphanage where a couple, Peter and Sharon Higgins, for those of you that were paying attention, the murdered couple of the neighbors from the first film, want to adopt a child who calls herself Annabelle. And so the film ends with the first film scene of the doctor and his wife hearing the murder of Pete and Sharon, going over to investigate, and then that film ends.
Yeah, it all like ties together. Now, you and I actually have a point of disagreement because I greatly preferred the second movie to the first movie.
And I preferred the first movie to the second movie.
I want to mention that the second movie was an early effort by David F. Sandberg, who is now directing the Shazam movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he's come a long way, but it's also got Anthony LaPaglia and Miranda Otto in it, two very excellent actors. And it wasn't up until very recently that I discovered Anthony LaPaglia is Australian.
Oh, wow.
Seriously, he's from Adelaide. Like, I heard him just in an interview speaking in an Australian accent, and I thought he was messing around.
Huh.
I don't think I've ever seen him as an Australian in a movie. He's always got an American accent.
Well, I thought, the second film is pretty interesting in how the evil comes to possess the actual vintage doll of Annabelle.
Yeah.
But I guess, it's sort of like, well, when we cut to the first film, so if you watched it in order, you would watch the second Annabelle creation.
Like, yeah, if you want to watch
and
it in
then you would watch
chronological order.
Annabelle.
Yeah.
So when we get to Annabelle, the daughter Annabelle that slits her throat and the blood leaks into the doll, is that just giving more evil?
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
Is that a different kind of demon?
I agree with you.
It's sort of like the first two movies fight with themselves
when you
on how this doll became possessed.
When you're demanding that all of the movies connect to each other, there's always a bit of messy retconning that has to happen.
Yeah.
Like it happens in the Marvel universe. You got to be like, oh, actually that thing that we wrote ourselves into a corner 5 years ago, it's different now. Yay.
You're right.
It happens all the time, but I agree with you, and it's a little annoying. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's why I like the first film, is because I thought all along that's how the doll started to draw this evil. And it made sense because it was, the daughter Annabelle had like run off to be part of a devil worshipping cult. And earlier in that film on the TV, there are news reports on the Manson family and how they're going around and murdering people randomly. Yeah.
I know, it's like,
so I sort of like that etymology.
I hear you.
The evil.
I just thought the second movie was a better movie, but it does, like, at the end of it, you're like, wait a minute, we already know the origin of the Annabelle doll. Like, why did you make a different origin for it?
Yeah, just like every single person involved in this film and the doll and the girls calling themselves Annabelle, and everybody's named Annabelle. It's like everything is Annabelle.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to distinguish.
Annabelle.
But in the final film, Annabelle Comes Home.
The directorial debut of Gary Dalberman.
Well, we finally catch up with Ed and Lorraine Warren, who confiscate the Annabelle doll from the daughter whose mother gifted her the doll at the end of the first film. So the doll summons evil to kill Ed Warren, like right away, which he barely survives this attack.
Yeah.
And leads the Warrens to locking up the doll in the pre-mentioned glass case.
With the warning sign on it.
Yeah, but this is now in their home-based artifact room.
Yeah, it's in their house.
And then the Warrens decide they have
shed.
to like go away for a conjuring. I think it is like they have to be called away because of
a case.
Yeah. And so they hire a babysitter to take care of their daughter, Judy, and the babysitter and her friend go into the artifact room.
Obviously.
As you would.
I would.
I mean, if you're going to open drawers and find dildos of people you're babysitting for, you're definitely going to go into a creepy artifact room.
Don't go into this room that's full of haunted shit. Like, yeah, sure.
So one of the girls leaves the Annabelle case unlocked. And so the doll begins to...
Which I wouldn't have done.
No. But they're just girls, They're just
I know that
14,
I get there like
15-year-old girls.
But if I'm going into the haunted artifact room, you'd be damn sure that I'm going to be careful about it.
I mean,
I'm not just.
I feel like
there.
Ed and Lorraine Warren should have
not
allowed that room to be accessed.
Gotta love that 70s, 80s parenting style of, hey, here's a devil doll.
Yeah, we're going away for a weekend. Have fun.
Going away for a week, but don't worry, we put the satanic doll behind half an inch of glass.
Like if Lorraine Warren really had abilities.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't she just have Judy stay at the babysitter's house?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Anyway, they get in, they leave the doll unlocked, and then basically the doll awakens the other possessed toys and like objects in the room.
I know we're having fun, but like I liked Annabelle 3 a lot. I thought it was really good. Yeah.
So after lots of evil and murder, the babysitter's friend gets possessed by the demon inside of Annabelle. And then after the friend finally recovers, the girls get Annabelle back into the case, and all the other evil possessed items return to the resting state.
And they do offer a motivation for one of the girls to go into that room in the first place. It's not just simple like rebelliousness or curiosity. She does have a motive. I'm not going to give it away, but it adds... I want to say it's not just like, oh, you dummies, why are you doing this? There's a reason.
You're not going to give it away? Because that's basically how the film ends. With Lorraine giving a message to her.
Yeah. The girl...
Well, you don't have to say it then if you don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, you should watch the movie. The movie is actually really good. And Gary Dauberman, the reason I mentioned his directorial debut, he is going to be directing the reboot of Salem's Lot coming out hopefully later this year.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it got delayed, but, that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes a delay just means more time to make it right. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay, look, I'm going to go all in, man. We're talking dolls. We're talking killer dolls. Then we're talking Puppet Master.
Oof.
Now, the Puppet Master series is one that maybe not everyone is familiar with because it is solidly a B-movie experience.
Yeah.
As from the notorious Full Moon Features, the B-movie schlock studio from Charles Band, which did some of my favorite movies in the 80s and 90s. It was like very similar to Troma around the same time, but Charles Band had a vision for creating comic book horror movies, as he called them, of like, low budget, but like spectacle and camp and violence. So they did movies like Trancers and Subspecies, Demonic Toys, Doll Man. Tim Thomerson was like their big guy. And Helen Hunt, actually, her film debut was in Trancers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, right? So anyway, I love Full Moon Features so much. I love their movies. They're just solid B. Like they do not put on airs. They know what they are. Mm-hmm. Your mileage may vary on that. Some of them are better than others. Some of them are straight up shit. But some of them are classics. So Puppet Master began in 1989. There are a whopping 15 movies in this franchise.
Wow.
Sequels, reboots, prequels, crossovers. Charles Band really did create a universe where like his movies started to cross over with each other, like Demonic Toys and Doll Man and Puppet Master. So anyway, the first movie, it's got William Hickey in it as André Toulon, who's an aging French puppeteer. And he's got this special elixir, and he's got these puppets that come to life and kill. So
there's multiple?
Oh, yeah. Now, each movie seems to introduce like new ones, but his sort of like core group is Blade. There's Jester. Pinhead is the strong man. Blade is that like got that really cool white kind of skeletal face, and he's got knives for hands. Six shooters, got 6 arms with revolvers in them. And Leech Woman, who barfs leeches on people.
Ew.
Yeah. There's the guy with the drill for a head. Anyway, it's super violent. It's super gory.
I mean, if you think about like original puppets, like Punch and Judy are the first ones that always come to mind for me. They were evil.
Yeah, and scary.
They were cruel.
Yeah, and violent. Yeah. So these movies, in some of the movies, the puppets are straight up evil. By the third movie, it's a prequel that goes to like a young André Toulon fighting the Nazis. So like they kind of become anti-heroes. In some of the movies, they're anti-heroes. In some of the movies, they're straight up villains. Not all of them are that. Some of them are good. Some of them are pretty bad. But the series has been going strong since 1989. There are new entries still coming out. The biggest one, The Littlest Reich, just came out a few years ago. That was written by S. Craig Zoller, who did Bone Tomahawk.
Oh, wow.
And Brawl at Cell Block 99. 1994's installment of Puppet Master. I can't remember which one that was, but that was one of the earlier films that David S. Goyer wrote. And he went on to do Blade and, The Dark Knight, and basically like most comic book movies that you've liked. The real draw of these movies, they're solid B. They're really campy and graphic and whatever. They're low budget, but the doll design's incredible.
Yeah, I mean they're very very scary.
Yes,
especially the main doll,
Blade.
Blade's
amazing.
Looks like
he's like a gaunt, bone white
corpse.
Skeletal. Yeah, like a phantasm.
It's got like
kind
that
of.
like when you see somebody without their nose.
Yeah,
flesh.
Yeah, it's
just the bone.
The design of the puppets are amazing. They are brutally violent. They can do really cool things. And the it's the practical effects. There's such love and care put into these things, especially when you're working on a small budget. The way these films are. These are movies done by people that genuinely love this shit.
Yeah.
That live and breathe it. That put in the crunch and the extra hours. And I mean, you really feel that. That's why I'm so fond of these movies. They're a lot of fun. You know, there's 15 of them. I feel like you can just jump in and watch whatever at this point. Who cares? Continuity be damned. It's about a guy who's got a bunch of cool puppets that kill things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they kill the shit out of people, especially Leech Woman. That is gross.
So I just want to talk briefly about The Boy.
Okay.
So The
Brahms.
Boy has 2 films.
He sure does.
The first is The Boy and the second is Brahms, The Boy 2. And the puppet's name is, well, I guess it's not a puppet. It's just a doll.
Yeah.
Named Brahms, very lifelike.
But like super porcelain white.
Yes, like Victorian sickly childlike.
Yes, yeah, dressed in a little suit.
So listen, I did this hard work so you don't have to, okay?
I've seen the first one.
Yeah. There's a bunch of rules. So Greta, she's an American from like an abusive relationship that comes to the UK.
It was Lauren Cohan in the first movie.
Yeah, Lauren Cohen. And
Cohen.
She ends up taking on this nannying job for Brahms from this old couple who are going on vacation finally. And there are a list of rules.
Yeah, they treat the doll like it's a real person.
Yes. So you have to like get it up every morning. You have to kiss it goodnight. You have to never leave it alone. You have to never take it outside.
Yeah, it's like Lars and the Real Girl, but like slightly less scary.
But you can't have anybody in the house.
Yeah.
So basically, within minutes of the old couple leaving. Oh, never cover its face. That's another one.
Yeah.
She breaks every rule.
I mean, obviously.
She ends up hooking up with the grocery guy and she covers him and she acts like it's not to be taken seriously. She's getting all of this cash to do this job.
Yeah.
And she's treating it like this doesn't matter to her.
Kids
like,
these days.
She's just so dismissive.
No one wants to work anymore.
This job.
Gosh.
She's been hired to do a job and she accepted the job. And it's a very weird job, but she doesn't take it seriously.
No, she really doesn't. Yeah.
And basically what happens is the crazy things start to happen. And, we find out that they lost their child.
Look, if someone hands you
it's just a
Brahms,
mess. Now it gets into a mess.
If someone hands you a Gremlin or a Brahms with a set of rules,
yeah,
follow the goddamn rules.
Well, the couple write a letter to Brahms before drowning themselves in, like, I don't know, the Norwegian Sea. I have no idea. It doesn't even work. It doesn't even make sense.
Were you a fan of this movie?
I wanted to be, but then, like I said, as we get into like the unveiling of the plot and how this came to be,
and there is a twist.
Essentially, Brahms, the doll, isn't the evil entity. It's someone else. It's a person. I mean, I don't care if I ruin it for you. Skip over 30 seconds if you want to watch this, but it's their son who died, who's like kept in this weird behind the walls basement attic zone of where he lives, and he wears a mask and he's doing these horrible things. I guess it was like, if I had to make sense of it, the son is a psychopath, and in order for him not to kill, the parents need to have this doll and treat it like their own son. And he watches behind the scenes to make sure they follow all the rules. If not, then he is allowed to, it was be evil.
It was remade. There was a South Korean remake a few years later called Parasite. That's a joke. It's just like...
I was like, what? No, that is not a remake.
The trope of people like secretly living inside your house. It's been in a lot of movies. People under the stairs.
No, it gets worse though with the second film.
Oh, do you even have to?
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
The second film doesn't.
Hit that 15-second button.
They try to do a through line.
And this is the one with the
Katie Holmes,
the ex Mrs. Cruz.
Yeah. So they try really hard to do a through line because at the end of the first movie, you see someone, basically Lauren Cohen's character, kills the doll again. Can we just understand that? Is this a real person or is it not a real person?
Wait, she kills the doll?
The boy.
Oh, she kills the guy, Brahms, the man who's inside the house, who's like the actual son.
His name is Cole. His name is not
Whatever.
Brahms.
Fucking
Yes. So she kills the son.
Ugh.
But the doll has been destroyed. Like
Yeah.
it's been smashed.
Yeah.
I think her like evil ex shows up and smashes the doll into
Yeah.
a million pieces.
Oh boy.
And that's why Cole is like, all right, everybody's dead. And so she kills Cole. Yes. Not, I mean, I'm thinking the boy is Cole.
Yeah.
And not the doll.
No, that's the movie, is that their son has been living in the walls and
Right.
growing up there.
I'm referring to him as the boy.
Yeah.
Okay. With Brahms the doll. The
Okay.
boy starring Brahms the doll. In
The
addition
musical.
to the boy's doll Brahms.
Based on the novel Push by Sapphire.
So now we go to the second movie, yes, starring Katie Holmes. And
From
at
Go.
the end of the first film, we see someone repairing Brahms, the doll. But we don't see who. And this weird through line is, it's like this local caretaker of the property. It's so bad. I can't even tell you what it's about. It doesn't make sense. It's about a couple that have a son, and then this mask that he wears, because that's what the original, Cole was wearing a mask. And is it the mask that's the demon possessed artifact or entity, or is it
Wait.
actually Brahms the doll? I know.
I thought the whole point of the first movie was there was no supernatural element. It was just some dude in
wearing
the
a
fucking walls.
porcelain mask.
Yeah, it wasn't a ghost. It was just some creep.
So it's the mask, and then they have this doll, and they think it's the doll because it keeps moving. But the kid, in the second movie, Jude, he's the son of Katie Holmes and her husband. He ends up wearing this porcelain mask and doesn't act himself. He acts crazy.
So just completely different.
Yeah, so
the rules.
it's not about the doll. It's about the mask.
Un-
And they don't even really talk about it like
my
it's
goodness.
about the mask.
Audience, my co-host has just overturned the table. She is starting a fire in the corner of a room. This is intense.
So, they throw Jude throws Brahms in the fire.
Yeah.
But he takes the mask. And so at the end of the movie, you can see the kid putting the mask on. And he says goodnight to Brahms in the mirror.
Okay.
But Brahms wasn't the son.
I'm already exhausted.
It's so messy. It's a mess.
Is this a recommendation? Or,
no, I'm just talking about the boy.
You know what? Maybe skip Brahms the boy
Let's
too.
hear it for the boy.
Hear it for the boy.
Wanna give the boy a mask.
Oh my gosh.
Well, do you want? You have another?
I do. It's an oldie but a goodie. So in 1975, there was a made-for-TV movie directed by Dan Curtis, and you'll remember that name as the creator of Dark Shadows.
Yep.
Called Trilogy of Terror. And it's 3 vignettes, 3 stories, all of them starring Karen Black. Karen Black, very famous actor, especially from the 70s. She was in like 5 Easy Pieces, and I think she was in one of the airport movies, like tons of stuff. So Karen Black plays different characters in all these movies, but I'm only going to talk about the third segment, which is called Amelia. And Amelia was written by Richard Matheson, the incredible
host of this show.
No.
Sorry. No,
Richard
not
Matheson, the late, great author of The Incredible Shrinking Man, What Dreams May Come, one of my favorite authors of all time. And, of course, I Am Legend. So, anyway, he wrote this. Now, Karen Black plays Amelia, who's a woman who lives alone, and it's only about 22 minutes long. And it's a credit to Richard Matheson's writing. Amelia has a full arc in this. She starts off it's very much like a one-woman play, almost the way it's staged. It feels a little theatrical. She gets a phone call from her mother, and just from Karen Black's side of the conversation, you really get the sense that her mother is an overbearing, smothering, horrible woman who's, and you watch you watch Amelia deflate as she's talking to her mom. At the same time, she's gotten a package in the mail. It's something that she bought at a curio shop in the city. It's for her boyfriend, who you also don't see. Again, you don't see anybody but Karen Black in this vignette. She is the only character, and it all takes place in her apartment. So now what she's ordered and what's in the box is a Zuni fetish doll, which is it's like an old kind of shrunken doll of an Aboriginal warrior. It's got very sharp teeth and a spear, and it's designed to like ward off evil and scare things. Unbeknownst to Karen Black, this is cursed. So basically right away this thing starts attacking her, like within minutes. Now, the difference with this doll and something like Chucky or another doll is the Zuni fetish doll doesn't play games. It doesn't fuck around.
It's not like a doll.
It's not theatrical. It is a Terminator. It starts attacking Karen Black, stabbing, and it's small. So it's like cutting her legs and her feet, and, she's trying to get away from it. And it's like, it can't do a lot of damage, but it's stabbing constantly and biting and stabbing and screaming. It never stops screaming. It never stops running. It never stops moving. It never stops. And a lot of it is done in point of view from the doll, so like low to the ground but moving, and watching Karen Black run away. Yeah,
you know how I feel about those calf and Achilles tendon stabbings.
Well, this thing, once it starts, it never stops. It's absolutely relentless. And Karen, the way it's filmed is really well done, because it could be, filmed by someone else. Could have looked like Karen Black just wrestling with a rubber doll. And this actually works. It's scary. She tries to trap it. She tries to kill it. She tries to, do all sorts of things. It's just the way it keeps going after her without even pausing, without stopping. She can't stop it. She can't even get a moment. It's fucking relentless. And then it has a really, really cool ending. The nature of curses. One thing about a curse is curses are passed on. I'll just say that. But it's got a wonderful ending. And it also really plays into a theme you see later explored in Gremlins. But like the arrogance of Western culture taking items of antiquity from other cultures that they do not understand and they have no reference for. And when she mentions it, she's talking about like her douchey boyfriend and his birthday, and like, oh, he'll love this. And it's like, well, he sounds like, I think from all accounts, he's like a stockbroker or some shit like that. And it's just, you saw something you liked. You didn't ask any questions. You don't have any appreciation for it. You just said, mine, I want it. Give me, here's money. Money buys everything. Yeah. And these are the consequences. You saw it in Gremlins, when the dad goes in and buys from the Chinese curio shop, and he's very dismissive of the warnings of like, yeah, take the money. Money's good, right? This is America. Money, money, money. So, Karen Black, Amelia greatly suffers from that arrogance, but it's a really good example of a sort of revenge on colonizers. Yeah. In a way.
Yeah, right.
Because she's not evil. She's not a bad person. You get no indication at all that there's anything wrong with her. But she's entirely dismissive and ignorant of this thing that she's just bought. And that's the thing. It's so ingrained, that sense of appropriation and entitlement and dismissiveness, that she's a perfectly fine person who doesn't think she's doing anything wrong at all. And by some standards, she's not. Right. But she does pay for it. So Trilogy of Terror, the whole thing is great, but if you only watch one segment, you can check it out on YouTube, honestly. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube for free. Watch Amelia, just for the fetish doll. It's fucking nuts, man. Yeah, it really is. And to instill fear from something that's like a foot tall.
Mm-hmm.
That's not easy to do.
No.
And this thing is genuinely scary.
Well, I think we should end this episode with just a brief mention of the newest entry into this category. And as we talked earlier about the history, starting with ventriloquist dolls being the possessors of evil, moving into the actual dolls being possessed by evil. I think now we're moving into robots or AI.
Yes.
Realistic dolls that are going to be
their own personalities, their own consciousness. I think I know where this is going.
So, Megan.
M3gan. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing as a possessed doll. It's just possessed by something else.
Yes. It's also
rampant technology.
It's also learned behavior and
a dark reflection of humanity's own tendencies.
Because it's not human, so it doesn't have real characteristics like empathy.
Or a misunderstanding of it. Because, they always said that Skynet in the Terminator movies ended the world to save the world because it viewed the greatest threat to life on Earth was humanity. So it's always like technology misunderstanding the point and then being given the keys to the kingdom. But you're right. It's like it's the new version of the possessed doll is technology run amok.
Self-learning.
The Child's Play remake tried to go there. I think Megan did a much better job, and
it's already got greenlit for a second.
For obviously made bank,
and it's Blumhouse, so it's a really entertaining movie. Definitely has some flaws, but I thought it was like really well done. And
I've been thinking about it a little since we saw it, and I was a little hard on it because it's PG-13 and it really doesn't go where I wanted it to go. But the thing is I'm a freak.
Yeah, you are.
I forgot for a moment that there is absolutely a necessity for gateway horror and entry horror. And this is a movie that is a really good place to start from. If you're curious about horror, but you don't want something that's going to like bring up your dinner, Megan's great. It's just violent enough to be, a horror movie, but it's not going to gross anybody out. It's a good gateway
more like
movie.
Sci-fi. Yeah. I feel like there's certain or similar elements to the manifestation, the sci-fi, the learning robot as Ex Machina.
Oh yeah, like Westworld or Proteus,
and also really making its own decisions. What they deem as righteous decisions.
Yeah,
which is interesting for a machine to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So check it out for sure. I'm not going to go into more because it's still in the theaters.
Megan's a lot of fun. It's good. I'm glad it's getting a sequel. It was I think I mentioned earlier, I was worried the weakest part of the movie was going to be the doll itself, and that ended up being the best part of the movie.
Yeah, it really was really well done.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be really distracting or and laborsome.
Shout out to Ronnie Chang, is excellent in this movie. He's really good as like the jerk tech guy.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say too that the daughter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Her real name is Violet McGraw, I think.
I've seen her in something else.
She was in Blind Man. No, House on Haunted Hill.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yeah, man, kid actors these days.
She played the young version of, the bent neck lady.
Yeah. Kid actors these days are really, really good. They have a range I feel like kid actors back in the day didn't really have.
Absolutely.
It's striking sometimes when you see such young people displaying like a real like range of emotion. I'm like, wow, I didn't learn to feel that until I was in my 30s.
Well, as you comfort yourself tonight before bed with your
Snuggling
vintage doll, just
with your
keep
blade,
in mind.
With your leech barfing dolls.
Don't piss them off.
No, be nice. And same for robots. Also, just be, you know what? Hedge your bets. Be nice to everything.
Treat a robot like a robot. Can we?
Everybody with the respect that you would want to be given if they were to take over and enslave humanity.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Terror in Tandem is written, produced, and recorded by Laura and Richard Mathiasen, and edited and mixed by Richard Mathiasen. Our theme was written and performed by Carrie Denver, and all other music was written and performed by David Hispanic. All opinions expressed on this podcast are our own and should be taken as such. Thanks for listening, and please remember to give us a like, a review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. We're